Welcome to Needy and Normal. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear. Meeting your needs is essential for living your best life. Here, we'll talk about those needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. Let's get needy because it's normal. This is a special day. Today marks episode 50. 51 if you count the trailer that I initially released to get you excited about the podcast. And if you've been here from the beginning, thank you so much. If you are just joining, you can go back and listen to whatever episode you want and then let me know what you think. So before you go, thanks for leaving me a review. Seriously, so glad you're here. Something I haven't talked about as the main topic is motherhood and being a mom and having two kids. And I've obviously trickled it in to certain moments and conversations I've had with you on the podcast, but it's never been the main ingredient for an episode, and perhaps today's the day. I'd really love to bring on a guest or several guests and do a series about parenting and motherhood. And I wouldn't take the chair as the expert in motherhood, but I will take the chair in possibly being an expert in learning how to parent solo often, while also mastering the art of co-parenting with my husband when he's home and figuring out ways to more quickly get through the transition of, oh, you're home now, come parent with me. Oh, you're gone now, I'm on my own. And it used to be such a shock to the system that the changing all the time of I'm on my own, I'm with him, I'm on my own, I'm with him. And then currently, as I'm recording this, we're in a 27-day streak of me being a parent on my own because my husband's away in Phoenix, Arizona for Brewers spring training, and he's calling games. And so, I don't know, like back when the kids were smaller, this would have been a really tough period of time for me. But we used to go to spring training the whole time, which is 5-6 weeks. You know, it's a long time to be away from home. And we used to do the whole thing until our son reached kindergarten. And at that point, it was the exact same time as 2020 and the world shutting down. And so that was the end of our chapter of going with him for the entire duration. Now we're home for this big stretch, and then we get to go join him there for a week. And in fact, this year we get to join him on the road in New York for the opening of the official 2025 season. And so we do our very best to stay connected as a family when he's gone. But this transition of solo parenting to kind of getting to do things together, to the in and out, and he's still busy, and it's something I want to bring Jeff on to talk about with me, because I think I don't want to say mastered because it's always a practice, but I really think we've gotten very good at this. And part of it is because we have open communication. Part of it is because love is the forefront of everything, because we always try really hard in everything we do. And Jeff and I have really similar values in all of that. And we parent pretty much the same. And, you know, there's a lot of things that line up and match up for us, but we also work really hard at it. And I think he's been more consistent over the years. Not that fatherhood is less than, it's just different. Motherhood is life altering in a much, on a bigger scale, in my opinion. I think for any mom, but especially for someone like me, you've heard the story. Go back to the first episode if you haven't heard it. We moved here, and all at once I lost my career, started becoming a mom for the first time, and moved to a new place where I didn't know anybody. And it was just so much change all at once. So even though I wanted to be a mom and we agreed to do this parenting thing together, it was such a huge shock to my system. And I have this theory now that our daughter is 7, as I'm recording this, we have a 10-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. And now that we have we've done this for 10 years and over 10 years, and we're at the end of 7, since I gave birth, let's say. So, there's this theory, and I need to do some research, but there's this theory that the postpartum chapter of a mom's world is not just the first couple of years after she has a baby. It's up to 7 years, and it takes just that long to really come back to yourself. And when I first read that, I thought, I don't know. That's a long damn time. But there is something to that. And granted, there's several chapters in the from birth until the kids are getting older, like certainly as they're going through different milestones and you're trying to navigate all the changes and all the things that parenting brings, and watching them grow and be perfect angels one minute and being little shits the next, and it's like the whole gamut of it all. But I have really kind of taken note of these chapters that we've experienced in parenting, and I've experienced especially in motherhood. And I have never gone through a more intense crash course on being a human than I have been through going through motherhood. And I've learned more about life. I've learned more about myself. I've learned more about how to operate as a person through my motherhood. And it really feels like a huge shift this year. And maybe it's having mentors and coaches and therapists, and being open to all of these personal development and growth things, because obviously this is my world. But I've really felt the shift. I really feel this perspective kind of, I don't know, everything just kind of started to come into focus. We crossed over into that. I've been a parent for over 10 years, but our youngest is now 7. And I started really thinking about this 7-year thing. Like, there's something to it. I can feel it. I mean, call it the universe and I connecting. I don't know. You come up with your own theories, but I do feel it. I feel clear. I feel more in control of myself. I think that's a really big part of motherhood. Like, the lesson in motherhood is you're trying, especially if you care deeply, like I do, like you do, I'm sure. The level of trying to stay in charge and in control and protect everyone and take care of all the things and do all the things, like, it's so intense that it's so hard to notice when it's time to let go a little bit, or recognize that there's some things that are just out of your control. And tantrums taught me that, I think, in a way. Like, just let them finish, just let them work it out. And the embarrassment factor of, my kid's crying in a Target, like, I just stopped caring about that. That's very helpful. But the level of patience I've had to learn, the level of self-control I've had to learn when the kids are fighting or having an issue or they're not putting their shoes on. I mean, you are so unbelievably tested as a parent. And when you're trying to do all the things as a solo parent, everything is so amplified. It feels bigger, it feels louder, it feels more stressful, it feels scarier, it feels like everything's on you, and the pressure is unbelievable. And this used to be the main ingredient of Jeff and my arguments when I was trying to explain to him how I was feeling and how I'm not trying to complain about our life. I just want you to know how hard it feels sometimes, because the pressure isn't just in the actions, in the moments where you're actually doing stuff. It's the mental load too, because when you're trying to take care of a family and precious lives, it's just, the pressure is immense. And it's not just, let me make sure you're fed and sheltered and safe and all that. It's also the emotional needs. and making sure that everybody's okay and learning things. And like, you have those arguments as a mom with yourself of, how much am I supposed to do for this kid versus encourage them to do for themselves. And I definitely take the as much independence as I can encourage them to figure out, the better. Because yes, eventually they have to leave, they have to fly, they have to do their own thing. So I am trying to teach them how to be independent all the time. And more as they're getting older, and that's been a huge game changer. But, even when they're 4 years old, like, teaching them how to brush their teeth on their own and put their clothes in the laundry and small things like that. And so it's not just, I got to get the lunches done and I got to make sure that their homework's done, and then I got to make sure that I have the teacher's conference on the calendar, and I got to make sure they have all the clothes they need in their drawers. And yes, it's all of those things, but it's also, was someone mean to them today? Were they nice to people today? How are they feeling about dad being gone? And, as mothers, you are the compass, and you are the keeper of all the thoughts and feelings. And it's not just pressures of running a household and kids' lives and helping them figure out how to be people. It's making sure that they feel okay on any given basis, and their health, right? Like, I'm always looking after their health and their well-being, and it is so much work. And it's such a privilege and an honor and a joy to be that person. But I think that was what was so hard for me over the years. And it still is, don't get me wrong, it still goes. But the pressure of knowing that I have to make all these things go, keep going. And I have to make sure that these kiddos feel loved and safe and heard and all the things. And you especially think about what might not have been so easy as you were growing up, right? Like, I think of my upbringing, and it was, from the outside looking in, I was raised with two loving parents. I had everything I needed. I worked hard in school. They encouraged that. If there were opportunities, they wanted me to go after them. But the layer beneath that was, my parents were not happily married, and it made things different and tough and unsafe at times to come to them with, my feelings or my, hardships, because we already had enough of that in the house, and it wasn't my sanctuary most of the time. And, individually I could go to my parents for things, and, they did their absolute best, and I don't hold things against them anymore. But living in a house full of conflict is, it changes your comfort level, and it, for me, made me rely so much on myself that now, yes, I'm strong and resilient, and I've gathered all the good things I possibly can from a tough moment in my life, long moment in my life. But I want to give to my children so much of what I always needed growing up. And it took me until becoming a mom to have any clarity, or at least more clarity on what those things really were. We want to give to our children all the things that we were so grateful to be given growing up, and then some. So I think of, our life is so unique. We're not, we have some traditional situations, we get up every morning, we go to school, we all do the things. But because of my husband's job, it's really it changes our world quite a bit all the time, and we've had to find our own normal. And so that's unique from my upbringing. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure my kids feel safe, healthy, happy, all the things, right? While we go through all these changes and transitions, and dad comes home and then he leaves, and I have to just keep this ship going, that pressure and that mental load and all the things I want to do right, I do have to accept that our normal is our normal, right? And I do have to accept that I don't need to take on more pressure and more stress than I already take on. So this is where that let go of control a little bit comes in, and I've really shed quite a bit the concept of adding more pressure. And there was a conversation Jeff and I had where I was thinking about the business and all the things I want to do. And, you know, I'm a goal setter and I'm a dreamer, and there's always things I want to do, right? But at the end of the day, Jeff and I were having this conversation. He said, listen, I know you and I know you want to do all the things, but the amount of pressure that ends up being put on you already, putting more on yourself, like, do you really want to do that? And, you know, an old version of me would have been offended by that. Thought, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. And I'm a little bit of a rebel by nature. And I really have to rein that in sometimes, and look at things in a different way. And perspective is so magical for that. And so as Jeff's telling me, I just don't want you to add more to your plate, he's looking out for me. He loves me. He knows that our life is different. You know, we don't have a traditional co-parenting style where we're both here on regular basis, and a lot of these pressures do sit on my shoulders, and I do have to keep things going. Do I need more on my shoulders right now? No, probably not. No, and I appreciate that. And so I really do have to step back, and because I'm in this new, more obvious place, and my mind is more clear about what I want and what makes sense and what feels right, it's very cool. But the thing is, I have to open to it. And so instead of being offended by Jeff saying, I don't want you to put more on your plate because I don't want you to feel more pressure than you already have, he's not saying don't or you can't. He's saying, you know, I love you and I want you to be okay and focus on the things that you have and that are going for you, and there's no need. Like, it's okay if you don't do more. And so that's the conversation I ended up having with myself is, you know what? I can get real focused on the things that I have, the things that I'm up to, and there's, you know, more to come from that as we go down the road, and life changes on kind of on its own, and you do make a deal with the universe in a way when you settle into where you are and get really good at the life you're living right now and see where it goes from there. And that's more of what I mean by this control, right? There's certain things I'm absolutely in control of. I am in control of my reactions. I'm in control of my responses. I'm in control of my decisions. I'm in control of how I treat myself. I'm in control of my attitude. I'm in control of my effort. This doesn't just play a role in parenting, which it totally does, because I'm telling you, I've never learned more about myself than going through these last 10 plus years, learning how to be a mom, especially in our ever-changing life, and taking on business ownership and keeping a marriage on track, and trying to be a good friend and a good coach and all the things, right? Like, there's so much to be grateful for. And sometimes more is not the answer. I have a mentor who recently told me, get really good at what you're doing now, and more will come when you're ready. And there was a younger version of me, and not just in age, like in maturity too, who would have fought that as well and thought, oh no, like, I want to do things now, I'm impatient, blah. But I think I'm so about sanctuary in my home, peace in my heart, calm in my body. I don't need happy kids every waking moment of the day, because that's not real. But I want kids who are able to figure things out, because I'm teaching them, and they're witnessing hopefully a good example, a better example. I've been a terrible example in many times in my parenting, and I am not done being a terrible example, but I'm trying really hard, and I want them to see that. But I also want them to see me be messy and mess up and be imperfect and figure it out, so that they can learn how to do that too. And I want them to learn disappointment, and that's a whole other conversation. I've learned how to be disappointed and come back from it over and over and over again, to a point where I have been able to manage my expectations differently. That's a whole other episode. I'm going to take notes right now. So I am going a bit on a tangent here, but the point is you do your best in the moment. And I think the theme in our house, which I will take from the Jeff Levering, my husband, effort and attitude. If you give effort to the things that matter to you and the things that are important and the things you're responsible for, and attitude, if you claim the right attitude, project the right attitude, you're going to be okay. And the other part is this control thing, right? Like we're so hell bent on having control of everything. And you're only really truly in control of yourself. And kids really bring up questions towards that because, yes, in a way, you are in control of them. You are in charge of them. You are their leader, and not always a fearless leader. In fact, as a parent, you're full of fears as a leader. Isn't that crazy? And yet you're still having to lead. It's seriously the hardest job no one tells you how to do. But it is magical in its teachings. And if you can step back as a mom, as a dad, and think about, my God, like how much I have learned about how to be a person and how to be a grown up, and let it be your teacher, right? Instead of fighting it or try to control it. It's very helpful. I've even gotten to the point now, I used to get real fired up when the kids fought and they're not nice to each other. Oh, it makes me so sad. And to the point of anger. Like I got so upset and so mad because I'm like, why can't you guys just be nice to each other? And now I will pick my battles differently because I am in control of how I respond to my kids, right? So if they're fighting and it's some dumb little thing, I don't need to get involved. I don't need to fix their problems. They can figure it out. I have taught them so many tools and methods about how to deal with each other that, come on, like one of these days you got to use one of those. So there are moments where I'll just step back and be like, let me know when you're done, or I'll walk away. And sometimes they'll be upset with me and, Mom, like you don't even care. Like, why aren't you helping us? And I've told them, you guys, listen, you can do this. You can figure it out. I'm walking away because I care about you enough to let you figure it out. and if they're, throwing something or hurting each other, whatever, like, of course I'm going to step in. But now it's like 8 times out of 10, I try really hard to just let them sort it out. They're old enough. Come on, if you need me, you'll come get me. But I would get so riled up about a fight I couldn't resolve. And it honestly, I know they're human beings and they're my little human beings, but they are their own individual people and I cannot fix everything for them. And it has been a game changer for me to detach from them in a way because, and I think this is where that 7 years comes in. I'm at that point where I don't feel like they're part of my body anymore. And for a very long time, I really did. Like they were my little babies and I literally grew them in my body. So of course they feel like they're not outside of me. And I think that was my struggle for so long in this control thing, right? It's like they're part of me. So I have to make sure that they're okay at all times. No, they're not going to be okay at all times. You're not okay at all times. I'm not okay at all times. That's normal. And we need to allow that we cannot fix everything right away sometimes or at all. And we can't fight other people's battles and we can't make things better all the time, but we can find different ways to be supportive. And in this case with the fighting, I actually am doing them a favor by allowing them to kind of navigate on their own and start to make use of the things I have taught them and know that I'm there and I love them, but that I don't need to hold their hand through absolutely everything because they're going to have to learn how to carry themselves through life. And it doesn't matter that they're under the age of 12. You're never too young to start figuring out how to be a person. And if you think about animals, they literally live on instincts. That is what they do. They don't think. They just do, completely based on instincts. So when the mother duckling is teaching her babies how to swim, she's just like, okay, get in. I'm right here if you need me, but like you can do this. Your body knows what to do. So then they learn how to swim. Same with flying. Okay, here we go. Flap your wings. You've got them. Use them. Okay, I'm right here if you need me. Okay, you do it. Like if you think about those ways, technically we're supposed to do the same kind of things as human beings, but we think too damn much and we try to control too damn much. So it's hard to let our babies fly. And I think this is what I've come to realize in my motherhood journey with our unique life is I sometimes need to just step back and see how hard I've worked and see the effort I've put in and this attitude that I'm working on every day and just see if it's paying off and it is. I gotta let it. Plus it relieves me of a lot of stress and that mental load I already carry. It's a lot. It's a heavy dose and I am a real big fan of maintaining my nervous system regulation and success is great and we want to be successful in life and have the money we need to pay for the things that let us do all the things we want to do. I get that, but success to me is emotionally stable family members and having peace in your heart and feeling loved. And the word cozy and the word sanctuary, those are kind of my words for the year. And sanctuary in home and in heart, and then cozy as in like that feeling of comfort and safety. Like those to me, if I feel those, if my family feels those things, if my marriage is feeling cozy and like a sanctuary, like I am good. And I think I'm realizing that more and more. And not that I feel like I'm an authority in the parenting department, but I definitely had a crash course in trying to do so much on my own and learning how to ask for help and learning how to be patient with myself. It's just crazy. I coach adults, not children, but it's been very useful as a coach and as a human being in my parenting, but certainly I'm still learning. But I do know what matters, and I think that is what I've learned over these last 10 plus years is what really, really matters. And as I hit episode 50, this is episode 50, I'm so pleased that I've been able to come to this here microphone and spout off lessons and stories and encouragement. And this also, for me, is defining success for my life, is getting to hopefully create impact for you, the listener, and encourage you to learn and love yourself and love your life and lighten up when you're being too hard on yourself and push yourself when you're being too light. I'm a real big fan now, especially, of not trying to complicate things. And that was something I had a very bad habit of complicating things more than I needed to. And, life is already so complicated. Honest, you know this. It's so complicated. We don't need to make it harder. So, as I finish today's episode, parent or not, life is full of pressure and stress and lessons and love, and all of these things are normal. All these things are natural, but I encourage you to attach yourself to things that make you feel good and things that make you feel like you're moving forward. And at times when things are overwhelming or feel like extra pressure, maybe just take a step back and think, what am I actually in control of? And where can I let go of a bit of control for self-preservation and in order to make room for more growth and more awareness and less complications, right? So remember that your needs matter. And if something doesn't feel right, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if there's something that just isn't sitting well, chances are you need something or you need to let something go. What that is, that's individual, right? But we're put on this planet to learn. That's what I think. And your needs matter because you matter. Thanks for being here. Please, for my 50th episode, go leave me a rating and a review. It would absolutely mean the world to me. And if you're going through something tricky and you want some support, I have been in those tricky situations. I love coaching, and I'm here for you. Thanks for being here. Take care. Needy and Normal is brought to you by ABL Life Coaching. Visit ablifecoaching.com to learn about transition life coaching, and booking your free initial consultation is easy. Be sure to find me and follow me on Instagram at ABL Life Coaching. And thanks for listening and sharing your favorite episode with a friend. See you next week.